What's going on, y'all, man? Shoot, your boy Houdini Crosswire back. I know I ain't been on here in a long time. I've been just, kind of just been pondering upon the other stuff the other topics I would like to kind of talk about. And, y'all already know, like, I'm just a person that's a wide range of topics, wide range of discussions, whether it be video game related or media related or, personal life stuff. And anybody, of course, that's been in my streams, you already know that a lot of the stuff I probably would be talking about or have or will be making videos on and probably had made videos on. I talked about a lot in my stream. I mean, man, you guys like saw a lot that was really going on in my personal life during that whole time. And that was really a big, big like transitional time in my life, man, from 2021 until 23. I had a lot going on, in my personal business life at that time that you guys literally were seeing in real time. I mean, it was days, of course, when I was live streaming and, I was having to handle calls and, and tell y'all stuff that was going on in real time and pause, like we probably like for 20 minutes, like, handle business or whatever. Like it was a lot of times you guys, we're seeing that live when I was dealing with that at the time. And it's just been a lot of little stuff I've been dealing with personally, man, these last 2 or 3 years, that I'm sure that, a lot of people can relate to because since this pandemic, I mean, it's kind of really affected a lot of our lives. And, a lot of people have had to make adjustments with their living situations. And, me, myself, I've had to do that. And, just a lot of different things. And it's just, it just really had me thinking about a lot of shit in this life. And, just certain choices I had to make, certain things that, I was told, and it just had you just evaluate a lot of stuff, man. And, one thing it just really had me evaluate was just like school and just education in general. And man, that shit, it's just like, man, we really are just miseducated in this society. I'm not going to sit here and just put the blame on school. Like they have to teach you everything you need to know. Like in school, you got to learn, how to, write up balance a checkbook. I mean, people don't even use that kind of stuff anymore, but you got to learn the basics of that. And you got to learn, how to, I guess, work a certain career job or something like that's going to get you a lot of money. I mean, it's not really on, I guess, the education system to teach you that. It's really, based on your own choices of what you want to make out here, since this is a quote unquote free market society. But it's like, man, we were really miseducated with that stuff. And it really starts back like, in elementary school. I mean, if you really think about it, once you learn basic math, basic subtraction, multiplication, division, um, I'll admit basic science, like you do need to know, understand the periodic table. You do need to understand the difference between a gas, the mixtures of a gas, or how some goes from a solid to a liquid. You do need to understand the basis of that. And I would say that you should understand, biology and things of that nature. And, but for the most part, that's all you really use out here. Like, unless you in like a specific field, like where you really got to know like geometry or some other type of shit like that. And for the most part, it's technology out here nowadays that does most of those calculations and all that stuff for you. You really don't need all that stuff. We didn't need all that stuff. We had to learn to survive out here. Like I said, I used to feel like when I was in school, man, really up until about like 7th, 8th grade, I used to feel like I'd rather just go to work because it's like if at the end, this shit is supposed to be designed to make me money. It's not going in that direction to where I see I could utilize this. And like I used to really sit there and wonder how the hell is learning a Pythagorean theorem really going to help you pay a bill off? Like, how is that shit really going to help you get a car? How is it really going to help you handle basic necessities, let alone any type of big aspiration? Like that question never was answered. And I'm like, I can't believe I was fooled into going to college. I did that for 6 years, got in $30,000 in debt because of that. And it's like, and knew that that shit wasn't even going to do nothing. It wasn't going to produce anything for me. Like a lot of people, man, I really have figured out too, that just like from doing this shit, you learn the difference in between some people that went to college and then people that didn't go. And it's like, it's like you have the ones that went they seem to be the ones that's like bamboozled, and then you got the ones that didn't go. They seem to be kind of brainwashed, and you could define those two terms however you want to look at it. But I look at it like the ones that went to college, like they seem to have this ideology that like you have this golden ticket that lifts you out of poverty, and by you, I guess having that, you don't have to accept certain jobs. You don't have to really live in certain quarters amongst like lower class people. And you don't really have to accept, I guess, a certain dignity that other people that's of not non-educated status or maybe over a lower working class status has to accept. And that really keeps these people behind. I mean, when I really think about it, I'm like, bro, like I was just telling y'all, from 2021 to 2023, man, I made literally, bro, $40,000 in 8 months with that maintenance shit I was telling y'all about. If you go back at some of my live streams, 2021, all of 2022, like if you, I'm not sitting here saying you all got to watch a whole 3-4 hour live stream, but bro, a lot of them live streams, I was literally making like $1,000 a week doing that stuff. I mean, when you see me like me saying, hold on a minute, I got to take this call. That was me literally, again, like, scheduling work orders and scheduling, tenants, jobs and stuff like that and doing that stuff. Like y'all saw it in real time. But to go back to my point, when I was doing that, I literally was making more at that time than everybody I know that graduated college. Like, I'm like, that shit didn't take no skill. To even get into the trades or maintenance or anything like that. I don't know if it's because they want to force everybody into this now and they've diminished the technology jobs and other type of stuff and made that lesser value to where now people have to go into the trades to really make a decent living. I don't know if it's that or if it's just the mere fact people just straight up don't want to do it. But it was easy for me to kind of come in and learn that shit and then, go on and make the money I made. And I'm like, that didn't take no skill. It didn't even take any prior experience for me to do that shit. I just got in and got lucky, at that time and was able to do that. And even now it's like I'm making good money doing that stuff. But it's like, I didn't have to go to school or, do all this stuff to do that. And I'm making more money than mostly everybody I know that has a degree, regardless of what they field was in. And it's like, that shit is like really, really sad when I think about that. And then, like I said, you got that with the ones that's bamboozled. Like, they may have the degree, but like I said, you can't really utilize it to really make no money. You realizing this golden piece of paper is really pyrite, it's fool's gold. It ain't really able to do anything no different than the person that ain't even have a high school diploma. And then it's sad because you got the ones that have never been to college, and some of them tend to think that by going to college that it would lift them out of poverty and it would give them, I guess, a certain boost or a certain status that they don't think that they think they won't be able to get by working hard. They would have to get, I guess, by being educated or being labeled in something, essentially by being certified or having a degree. And that gives them, again, some kind of golden right. But in reality, they'll live the same way as somebody that's in poverty, because that's basically where you both came from. You don't just get lifted out of this, like, and there's no career or no job that's just going to just get you out of it like that. It don't work like that. And it's like you do have those two forms, I realize, of people that that's, I guess, so-called educated and not educated, to where they the whole idea of education is just capitalism. And I remember this to be true because I remember I was going to Georgia Southern University, and when I first got down there, it wasn't really like they really had that many restaurants and just stuff that you could really spend your money on campus. But as I was getting ready to graduate, it's like all that stuff had just increased. And I remember thinking like, man, this whole thing ain't nothing but a business. It's not really even about you coming down here and learning something and going in and building your life and having a career. It's just about them making money and having the university have a certain accreditation so that more and more people globally will see it as an attraction to go there. It wasn't about the students. It was about what the university was going to be able to make. And then the certain topics that they talk about in college, or not college, but just school in general. Like, that shit crazy. I thought to myself, man, like, they don't even teach you how to, like, I really, in the future soon, you guys, like, once I kind of really get my shit established, I'm going to be purchasing my first duplex. And I really want to show you guys the process of how all this stuff goes. like how the process works actually with like purchasing a home. Because again, this is something we weren't really ever taught in school. Like nobody ever explained to us like how how putting down a certain percentage on a house works, and like how much you would need to save up, and how they come up with the interest payments, and how much it will actually be based on all the things categorized, what a private mortgage insurance is, or you know what I mean? Like none of that, we never had a class on this stuff. That shit was never a topic or a certain discussion within any subject that I've ever taken in school. Like none of that stuff. Like I say, even just ethics on how to even work in a certain job. It's like you might be able to. That's one thing with education too. It's like I do know that it's certain fields that when you go into that field, like nursing or something like that, you have to take ethics classes and stuff like that. But it ain't even like when you go in and you being educated in a career, like they're teaching you how to deal with the culture of the job. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you somebody that work as a damn policeman or a firefighter or a nurse or some shit like that, they ain't teaching you like how to be in the hospital every single day, dealing with a cold building, you around a bunch of sick people, or, you got to be around somebody that, they feel like they going crazy, and, you psychologically have to deal with this stuff every day. They're not even really educating you on how to really balance that, within you, whatever career that you even select. So it's like, that's how man, this education thing is designed just to make money off of you. Because even all the aspects of what you would need to know going into a certain career, you're not really given that. You're not taught that. Even if you're not taught, you're not even like structured to see that that's where it's supposed to, what you have to learn in order to even deal with that culture every day. And it's really sad, man. Another thought I had with myself too, like which one really is more important? Is it like education or your stability, like when it comes to your future? Because I'm thinking like, the whole point of education and investing in that is obviously to plan out a better future. But it's like if your future doesn't really look too bright because things have gotten more expensive, what you were able to do with that certain education in the past is not really deemed as valuable in the future. So like how like you what you learning and everything, sometimes that's not really as important as like what your stability is going to be in the future. I mean, like I said before, like me having a high school diploma, but not being able to know where I'm going to be able to afford my first place or work my first job. I mean, does that really matter that I have that shit? I mean, who really cares that I got that, and I could possibly do this? If I don't have nothing right now, then it don't ultimately matter, what this shit could potentially do. Like you need to benefit from it in the moment in order for you to even see anything in the future. And education is really just a big promise that in the future it's something that's potentially going to get better, but it's never a guarantee. Ultimately, I always think about this. Unless, if you're in a certain field, especially like, in a certain career that you're doing, you got to think about it like this, man. If you were given that same amount of money to do that job, like with my job, for instance, I do maintenance. I mean, as you guys know, um, if I was getting paid the same amount of money right now, I mean, like, and don't get me wrong, I like doing this, because I feel like it's something that I could utilize for my own benefit. Like I don't look at it like it's just a job that I go to make somebody else richer and, and to build somebody else's legacy. I do look at it as something that I could use for myself and build my own legacy with it, and, allow some form of like, I guess, freedom when I'm working, because I don't really got to deal with people like that. I mean, as crazy as it may sound to you, some of y'all, I would way rather be in a crawl space, you know what I mean, where it's spiders, black widows, and snakes and shit that's probably down there in dark, 100-degree weather outside. I will still rather be dealing with that every single day than to have to sit 10 hours in a cubicle, or, to be working somewhere where I got to abide by metrics. And if something is off, I could lose the job, or I got to be having all this anxiety and stuff when I go to work just to keep the job. I'd much rather do what I'm doing right now, because maintenance is straight to the point. You show up, it's a problem. 9 times out of 10, somebody either don't know how to do the shit or they don't want to do it. 9 times out of 10, they don't know how to do it, when it comes to this shit. So as long as I know that I'm skilled enough to show up and fix the problem, then I could do that and go on and know that I'm getting paid. And that's it. I don't really have to do anything else within the culture of my job to make sure that I get paid. I just got to fix the problem. And like I was saying, like, even if I was getting paid the same amount of money to not do my job, would I still show up and go to work every day? I would. I'm not even gonna lie to you. You know, you have some people that like to work, you know, for the culture, you know, being in, you know, around people. But what I do, I'm not really around people like that. But just for the mere fact of what I do like doing it. And I'm not gonna sit here and say I would do it for free, because obviously you need money, you know, to survive and pay for overhead and gas and food and other things you need for the basic survival needs. But I still would honestly do my job, because like it doesn't really, I don't feel like it's something that I'm doing for somebody else. Like, I am learning a skill that I could utilize for myself. You know, but most people out here, if honestly, if they were given their same salary, 30, 40, $50,000 a year, or $20 an hour, whatever, you know, basic system they get paid on, and they didn't have to go to their job, I guarantee they wouldn't go to the job, you know, and that's a fact. So that goes to show that most people out here, they don't really learn stuff to learn it for the betterment of, you know, some kind of culture or some kind of you know, societal reason. They learn it for money. It's all for survival, intentional purposes. And I was honestly say that most jobs and careers out here are really like that. I mean, you know, nobody really wants to do this stuff out here, especially when it's not really getting you the value of like a good standard of living. And we really have, boy, we've been bamboozled by this education thing. It's like, I mean, I know that from 0 to 18, it's not really much else you could do but go to school. But damn, I mean, it's like the stuff you really learn, it really does not prepare you for the stuff that's out here in this reality. And I'm sure a lot of y'all can really attest to that, especially at the age that we are now, because it's like you could really start to see, like, you know, we got real adult issues going on that we got to resolve. And you know, and it's like a lot of this stuff you kind of got to figure out on the fly. It's not like it's just something, you know, that was told to you. I mean, it was told, but you don't have any kind of guideline for this. And boy, that the education system in America, it definitely has failed, and it's failed mainly in that department there. Because again, if it's not about sustaining your stability, then, you know, if you're not being educated to sustain your stability, then the shit was pointless. And that's pretty much it on that. Just one last thing, y'all. Always remember this right here. You make money to be you get educated to make money. You know what I mean? You get educated to make money. So if the education isn't making you no money, then the education is useless. Let's be real. This ain't the 16th and 18th century where you can go stand on the corner and discuss philosophy and have 100 people speak, you know, around you, where you could be some type of influencer or something like that, you know, or, you know, even if you do some shit on YouTube, like, you know, it's not like the likelihood of that is going to make you any money or give you any type of notoriety. So like I said before, if the education, if you're getting educated to make money and it's not making you no money, the education is useless. It don't matter what you studied. It don't matter what you know, intend on doing with it. If it's not making you no money, then that education was kind of useless.